Thank you so much for joining us for Author Hour with Richard Lyntton, a show for writers on writing. I'm your host, Richard Lyntton, author of North Korea Deception, an international spy thriller set in London, Moscow, Vladivostok and Pyongyang. When Cigdem Knebel, my guest, struggled to find decodable chapter books a dyslexic child could painlessly read, she began to write one herself for her son. She's the author of 15 children's books and has sold 100,000 copies of books and workbooks. Her mission is to improve fluency, comprehension, and most importantly, reading confidence of children with dyslexia. Here is her first book, The Gold of Black Rock. Welcome to the show, Cigdem. Thank you so much for coming. How are you?
Great, thanks for having me.
So exciting, so exciting. So I read the book because I had no idea about, I didn't really know what dyslexia is. So maybe we should start there. Can you explain to us what dyslexia actually is?
Sure, dyslexia is a different way of learning. It's called the learning difference or the learning disability, depending on who you talk to. It's the way how the brain processes the letters, the words, and how it converts them into reading. So a dyslexic child who hasn't really learned to read processes the information in a different part of the brain, and it's slower and it's a lot more cumbersome.
And so tell us the story of how this all came about for you. I'm assuming you personally were not dyslexic.
We don't know. I just took a test a couple of months ago on a show, and they said I'm actually dyslexic, like borderline, but I have found.
Little bit.
Yeah, and my husband was self-diagnosed after my son was diagnosed. So I think it runs in the family, and it's a genetic situation.
So tell us about The Gold of Black Rock Hill. Why did you start writing it? Tell us the story. What happened with your son? How did it manifest itself? Just tell us a little bit about the story of why this all started for you.
Sure. So he was 6 when he started saying that he was having problem with math, which was one of his strongest subjects at school. And we kind of digged into it a little bit, and he said, when it's word problems, I can't do math. And we knew his reading was slow. We started looking into it. And a few years before that, I met a friend at a Halloween party, and she said her daughter wasn't going to my kids' school anymore because she was dyslexic. I said, "What's dyslexic?" And she kind of gave me a elevator speech about what dyslexia is and how they diagnosed her. Right. And when I started seeing the similar signs, I didn't even remember the word dyslexia, so I called my friend and said, "What was that word that you said your daughter had that? What was that?" Right. And she said, "You mean dyslexia?" Wow. I said yes, and I started researching, and I kind of self-diagnosed my son, and then we went to a psychologist. He was officially diagnosed with dyslexia.
Wow. So then take me to he's reading, or he's trying to read.
He's not reading at all.
He's not reading at all. Wow.
No, not at all.
So then how did it go then? What led you to that moment where you decided, I'm going to write a book for, were you writing it for your son to begin with, or were you thinking, I'm going to publish this for like every kid on the planet?
I had no intention to publish this. This was literally printed on paper and folded for him to hold like a book.
Wonderful.
And so because he couldn't connect the letters to sounds, we started Wilson program. There are many wonderful programs out there. Wilson was the one that was available, close to us. We knew people who could help us. Right. And so it's an Orton Gilligan-based research or an approach where they teach kinesthetically or a multisensory way, and they start in a very systematic way. So they start with short vowels and constants that don't change. So it would be like if it's a C, they teach it as K sound, not the S sound, like it would be in a ceiling. And then it would be short vowels. Then they start going into digraphs and blends. Digraphs would be like CK, SH, and CH, like Ch, where two letters come and make one sound. And then they look at blends where two letters come together and they're still their own sound. It would be like blast. B-L would be B-L, but instead of CK would be, they come and make ch sound or k sound.
Okay, so if we can just look at the graphic we have of the page, what struck me when I was reading this is the format, and you have these distinct chapters. Now, is that the way you personally write for dyslexia for the children, or is that how it's normally done?
So there's really no standard, and I kind of picked what I thought would be useful for my son. So when you look at one of my earlier books, they have a little bit of illustration, and they have a bit longer chapters.
Right.
After book 3, the chapters became a lot shorter, because what my son was doing is he would open the book and I said, let's read a chapter. And he would try to find out where the chapter is, and if the chapter is a long chapter, he would be frustrated.
Wow.
So I figured out that I had to create a story where I could break every chapter between 2 to 4 pages.
Okay.
The fonts are a little bit larger. If you notice that I use a lot of dialogue to make it easier, there's white space, and at this point there are no illustrations, and there won't be any illustrations at this level books. Because one thing that unfortunately still some schools teach, and it becomes a crutch for dyslexic readers when they're starting their reading journey early on, is they say, look at the image and guess. You cannot guess the text. You have to decode, meaning you have to understand the letters, what sounds they make, and read them individually, and then combine the letters, making sentences and comprehension, which is the goal of reading comes.
Okay, and just explain that, because again, that for me, that was a new term, decodable. You know, it says decodable, and I thought, what does that mean? So I looked up the definition. It basically means for dyslexia to be made easy to read, right, for them. Can you just explain that term, decodable?
Sure.
Yeah.
So decoding is reading by matching the sounds to letters.
Okay.
Encoding is doing it on the writing side.
Okay.
So you're taking it in decoding. Encoding is you're putting it out.
Okay.
So when you're decoding, decodable could be even more difficult words, but I choose decodable on the earlier part. So in the program, it's usually like level 3, 4. And as they learn a lot harder rules, they can read other more difficult decodable words.
Wow. So it really is, it's almost like a computer language that they've got to learn.
It actually is. So if you think about my background, I'm an engineer.
Okay.
And I have never liked writing. Words are not my friends. I love numbers. And I wrote one story back in 7th grade, and my teacher said, well, get more help next time, because she didn't think I wrote it. What I did is I went to the library, I took the same author's several books, I read them, and I said, there's a process, this is how she's doing it, and I applied it to my story. I was very proud of it, but I was kind of disappointed when the teacher thought that it wasn't me writing it. And I said, what was I thinking? Whatever.
You know what, that reminds me, I was literally 6 or 7 years old, and we had story time writing each week. And every Friday afternoon, gosh, I can't believe you just made me remember, it's 45 years ago. And her name was Miss Woods. And she was like a ballerina type, and she had this bun, and she was really strict. I remember she used to do this to make you quiet. Anyway, so I can't believe you're bringing me. So anyway, I was writing this story, and every week I loved it, chapter, and I think I got to like 20 chapters, and it was like a cavalry, cowboys and Indians. And one day, and I was really looking forward to my writing that afternoon, and one day on a Friday afternoon when I was on about chapter 20, she said, come here. And I thought she was going to say, wow, this is great. You're just writing a whole book here. She took a red pen and she underlined the end of that chapter. And she said, you need to move on to something else now. I mean, I was so gutted. And that's maybe why I didn't try and write for another 40 years. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, the point is, school time, those early years, so important. Tell me the story about your son. Like, what made you, emotionally, what was it like to see your son struggling like that? And what was can you remember exactly what it was that made you say, right, I'm going to actually publish this book?
Oh, definitely. My son started the program, and he started really solving the puzzle of reading.
Right.
And about maybe some months into it, he picked Hop and Pop, which is 280 words.
Okay.
He read it, it's...
Wait, Hop and Pop, what's it?
It's by Dr. Seuss.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So it's, it's a very simple book, a few words on each page, but he was so proud. It was the first time he actually picked a book and understood that there were words on a page and he could read it.
Right.
And
how old is he then?
So he's 7.
7, okay, yeah.
And he said, now
had you already written a story for him at that point?
No, not at all.
Okay,
not at all. They're not even in my mind.
Okay, so 7 years old, yeah.
So he said, I want to read chapter books like my friends do. So we said, okay, let's find these books. They have to be out there. I looked everywhere, and I'm pretty resourceful. I couldn't find. There are a lot of really good schools around here for dyslexic kids. I contacted them.
But he's a son. What's your son's name?
Kevin.
Kevin's a regular school at this stage, right?
Oh, no, he's in GA, Germantown
No,
Academy.
but it's a regular. It's not a school especially for dyslexic kids or anything like that.
No, he's not. No. So we didn't make that transition, but we did. He did go to summer camps to prevent summer reading loss.
All right. So so you looked for the books.
So I looked for them and I couldn't find. So I said, okay, I have to start writing something for him. So I set my goal. I'm pretty numbers oriented, as I said before. I looked at different types of how I could get a goal. They were saying you can write an hour, you can write half an hour. I said time doesn't really work well with me because I can use an hour on something and accomplish nothing.
Okay.
So I always set my goals on like numbers and quantitative things because I'm an engineer.
Okay.
So I said I'm gonna set 500 word goal 3 times a week.
Wow.
And that was quite aligned with how fast my son could read anyway.
Say that again. 500 words 3 times. And it didn't matter how long that was going to take you. You just got to get the 500 words, whether it was an hour or 2 hours?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
And early on it was difficult because, the word choices are so little.
Right.
So it's like such a small pool.
So again, because this is really fascinating, because you're literally writing. What's the correct term when I say you're writing a book for a dyslexic child? What's the correct word to use when we're talking about this format?
I would say decodable.
Decodable. Okay. So you're writing a decodable book, even though you're not really dyslexic, although you just discovered you might be a little bit. So and you want to do that word process of 500 words. So tell us. So just go into more detail there. So you're kind of stopping yourself because you've got to keep it simple and you've got to have your paragraphs. Tell us about that.
So it's first of all, it's very difficult to write thinking, oh, I can't use this word, I can't use this word. For example, words like no, about, I can't use them because they're double. Okay, about would be double vowel. OU is very difficult for them. No is K is silent.
No, as in I know you.
I know you. Wow. Or if you say now, you can't use now because OW is a double vowel.
And when you say you can't use it for a very first simple decodable book. Presumably later, when a dyslexic child gets better, he's going to read the word no, obviously.
Correctly.
So, but for the first basic one, and was the first one the Gold or Black Rock Hill?
It was Sam is Stuck is the first book.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean that's fascinating.
So of course, I'm not thinking about everyone out there. I'm thinking about only my son. So there are some words that are not maybe decodable at that level, but he has learned because at school they were doing flashcards and rings, and he memorized some of the words.
Yeah.
So that's why my first book has several different editions, because it was written for my son. Then I really understood how the teaching of these different rules come, and I had to eliminate those words because those were his sight words that were memorized.
Yeah.
So I started kind of looking into how I could write that he could read. First of all, I would write the 500 words, and then I would go and start underlining or highlighting the words that were difficult.
Right.
And then I would take them, and sometimes the story would have to change. Okay. And also the topic had to be something that he would like to read, because there's a lot of emotional resistance on reading.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the stamina. I remember he is now 7 years old, so we would go. He would read one sentence, I would read one sentence, and then those sentences became paragraphs. I realized he would say one paragraph is a lot longer than the other. He would count back and try to make that. I'll read 2 paragraphs so you can read that longer one. All in his mind, all this is going. So
I mean, how is that for you as a parent? Because I don't want to sound like I feel sorry for you. Do you know what I mean? Like people that, oh no, how terrible. What is that? But what is that like? Like to see your child struggling so hard, and then he's at a regular school where all the kids don't have dyslexia, and then you've got all the regular stuff that a kid's got to learn. Like, what is that like?
So early on, I think it was really difficult. But once he started putting the pieces together and he started showing progress, he's a bright kid. He's very social. I knew it was going to be okay when he was an adult.
Right.
He was very entrepreneurial, even at like age 3, 4. Okay. So my biggest worry was, how do I keep his spirit up, his confidence?
Right.
strong and his love on learning active,
Right.
because that's what would carry him to success, not what grade he got. And I saw that the technology was coming together, and people are using speech to text, text to speech. I thought those were going to be less important as he grew older.
Right.
But his love of learning and his confidence in himself, that he works hard, he gets results, and he
How old is he now?
He's 13 now.
So was he like blown away that you actually started writing books for him? And
I don't think he
series?
put two and two together back, when he was 7. And he really, I think, understood this as we were writing our 4th book, because at that time he was able to.
When you say we, you mean he was helping you, or you mean?
He was. It's a whole family project at that point.
So cool.
And you also asked how I decided to publish these, right? So
yes, please.
So
real quick, so simple. Just as a quick, Simple Words Books is the website. www.simple. We'll show you at the end. Simple Words with an S, books with an S.com. And I think we have a graphic, but it's amazing how many, if we can just show that graphic of all the books, like I love the color. I mean, for me, like once I want to read them, because like the covers and the colors, and the different subject matter and the titles. I mean, it's just such a fantastic accomplishment. So please continue the story of how you then publish and then more.
So when he started summer camp at AIM Academy, which is a school for dyslexic kids, I was still searching thinking maybe something has popped up or I missed something. And I went to the head of lower school and I just told her, I really need these books because I'm not writing fast enough, and he's learning more, and I can't completely integrate all those because it's just so beyond my knowledge.
But are you still not finding other books that are good for him?
No, I couldn't find. So the books out there are, maybe.
So no wonder you've sold 100,000 copies. Like you're the only person out there.
There are a few others are doing it right now, but not, I think, at that level. They're usually shorter books. So the books out there were really babyish, right? They're like cats sit on a mat.
Yes.
But that's not what my books are about. I mean, these are really
stories,
really stories.
Dex and what was the other one? Dex, the other cat?
Mist is the one.
Dex
Yeah.
and
So, so they said if you publish these, we'll buy. And I was like, suddenly,
the school said that.
The school said that. I was like, I think there's a bigger idea. So
I
said, let me look into how I would publish these when I retire. And in the meantime, I met the lady who created the Wilson program, Barbara Wilson, which truly changed my son's life. And she was telling her story at a conference.
Where is she based? Where is that based?
She's in Boston.
Okay.
So when she said that, she changed her perspective and she changed really careers to make sure that she tackled dyslexia at the children's level, because she was working with adults, and she said, I cannot wait for them to be adults. We have to do something when they're children. I was in tears and I said, I cannot just wait until I retire to publish these. So I said, okay, we're doing this. Wow. So I went through the
Wait, how many books do you have by that stage?
One.
Oh, just the one?
One, and it's on a Word format.
Okay.
That's
so how old was your son at this stage?
He's 8.
Hey, he was at 8 at this stage.
7 going down
and at
to
AIM
8.
Academy.
Yes.
Okay.
No, he's in Germantown Academy.
But when
he
they
was in a summer camp.
Oh, the summer camp.
Summer camp.
So they said, we'll buy the book if you publish it. Okay.
Yes.
So then what?
So I'm like, okay, there's really a need out there.
I mean, this is like quite a long time ago. This is before like self-publishing and publishing. Like
so it was
hard,
right?
just
starting. So Create Spate was just recently bought by KD by Amazon just around that time. Yep. So okay, I said maybe I'll find I'll go and do this traditional publishing, whatever they here. So I did my research. I said, okay, I'm a first-time author. Nobody understands what I'm doing. I had to find an agent. I talked to a lot of people, and really quickly I realized that was going to be quite impossible.
No way you could go the traditional route.
Because I have to find editors, publishers, agents who understand what I'm doing, who don't change the words, and I also didn't feel comfortable giving the copyrights to somebody else.
Right.
Because I'm creating it, and I really had a bigger vision for how they should be used. Not realizing, I would write 15 books. That wasn't even in my mind. But I thought there could be so many other ways to go to schools and really integrate these into the curriculum. So I quickly decided that I would go on my own with self-publishing. Yeah. And after my, I think, 6th book, I said this is getting bigger. People started contacting me for help and they said, can you publish our books? And Simple Words became a publishing company.
Amazing.
And now we publish for other people under...
But not just decodable books.
So not decodable books. Under McCorrell, we also publish any books for neurodiversity. And earlier this year, we started Cigdem Knebel publishing company. Now we publish for all authors, all genres.
Amazing, amazing. But going back to the sort of the explosion, as it were. So back then you could hardly find any books for decodable books. So now, what is it, 7, 8 years later? How, like, what is the landscape like now? Is it 10% better than it was? 50%? Have other people started copying you and writing decodable books? Like, what is the landscape like now?
So there are more books out there, and I would love to see even more. I mean, sometimes people say, "Oh, you need to have to copyright this, or trademark the whole way of writing." So first of all, that can't be done, and I do want others to write. If you think about a library for a child who learns to read in a traditional way, there are thousands, tens of thousands, millions of books out there. They can pick whatever they want. So with mine, 15 books and maybe another 30 out there at different
So that's
levels.
my question. So say for example, there's a million books out there for teenagers, right? Regular books. How many books out there are there for, how many decodable books out there are there for teenagers?
0, other than mine. For teenagers. There are a lot more for elementary school.
And I see you've gone on the back. Again, you can't see this, but there's like, it's like, I have to put my glasses on, but you go word count guide, 1,000, 1 to 3,000, 3 to 5,000, all the way up to 12,000. So 12,000 words, word count guide, is for, what age would that be?
So they would be a lot higher level, more like, later middle school, higher high school or high school. So we don't have those published yet, but I'm working on it. And of course, at that level, I'm introducing a few more.
Are you still writing them?
I am still writing them.
So I mean, is this something that maybe people who write maybe children's stories or just have an interest, maybe their children are dyslexic? I mean, is this something that perhaps writers or would-be writers should look into? Maybe trying to write for trying to write maybe buy some of your books, see how you do it, and then I'm not saying necessarily with you, but I'm just saying it's like, it seems to be like a market, and then they could write the book and then maybe come to you anyway. Do you know, is that a conceivable idea?
That happens all the time.
It does.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would say about 6 to 10 authors contacted me.
Okay.
And
6 to 10
authors a year.
A year.
Contact me, and they actually go through, more contact me, about 6 to 10 would submit a piece of writing. Yeah. And I go back and say, okay, this is what needs to change. Okay. And it's like, they can't do it. So I don't have anyone who has really given me enough material for us to publish, and they all say, Are
those people, do they have dyslexic children?
Some do, they're mostly teachers or educators. It's not as easy as you would think. So what happens
I'm sure, I'm sort of, I know you, or we're sort of friends, acquaintances from school, and I sort of had a vague idea of what you do, but as I read the book, and by the way, there's even I just wanted you to explain that too, the word count guide in the back. But I guess my point is, it's just extraordinary that you are pretty much. What about in England? I mean, in Europe?
They sell all around the world. We have sold in almost 40
is there no one else
countries.
writing books like this? And what about other languages? How about that?
So other languages are very different depending on how phonetic they are. So I'm Turkish. So take Turkey. Turkish is my native language. It's very phonetic. Yeah. There are 29 letters. Yeah. They make 28 sounds. And the 29th letter, when it's after a vowel, it makes the vowel longer. That's it. A child usually learns to read within a couple of months. Have
you found these in other countries, decodable books?
In English, no.
But so there is some in Turkey?
So Turkish is very decodable language to start with. Really? So it's a lot easier for a child to read. So the problems they have there are different. So there are some letters that really look alike. So they would be written with probably letters, not sounds.
Okay. Let me just jump to, again, the world of publishing, because time is running out. So how many books back then did you think you might write? I mean, again, I just think it's so incredible. You've got 14 of these books, and you're writing more, correct?
Correct.
Pandemic last year, publishing houses presumably having a backlist of traditionally published. Just give us a quick sense in our last few minutes of what it's like for you as a publisher over the last year.
It's been actually quite amazing. I know we had a record sale month after month. Every month
2020?
2020. Every month was better than the one before, except March, where things just kind of stopped. We didn't even know what was happening, and teachers who had our books, they said they are now locked at school. We can't have access to them. So within 15 days, we found a maybe not very user-friendly, but a quick way to get all of our books on a screen share format for all teachers, and had at cost we gave it to anybody who wanted it to help them transition their students, because we didn't want to.
So you just gave them the books, and then in the hope that, I guess.
Well, they already bought it, right? So if they're on our email list, I said just have it, because.
So what do you scanned every page sort of thing, and you sent them?
We converted it into JPEG from the PDF.
So they could use it on Zoom.
Exactly. And they wanted it screen share. We couldn't do it flowable so that they could follow. Sometimes the kids had it, the books, so it would have to be the identical same pages. So there were a lot of things that we did for about a month, and everything was put on hold. Another project that we had for a while was we were getting requests from teachers for plays that are decodable. So we took 5 of our stories that would be easily adaptable to plays and turned them into manuscripts that they could actually just act on stage.
Wow. So you have you written plays for all the books?
For 5 of them.
5. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow, isn't that fantastic? So what are your plans? So it sounds like 2020 was crazy busy for you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What are your plans, for the next 2-3 years?
So we have a lot more books coming up.
Are you writing all these? Are you getting any help?
I am getting some help in some. So I have a few people who are getting the idea but cannot maybe write a fully decodable book. So I give them.
So do you actively? Should we say it now? Are you open to people contacting you via your website and having a try? Because let's face it, folks, it doesn't sound that easy. Yeah. We think we all want to write, but but I feel like if someone, the right kind of person, this is a great opportunity.
Definitely.
To come, because you can't do it all.
Mm-hmm. And it could be short stories. I always tell them, if you think that writing a 10,000 story is too long, write 2,000 or maybe 1,000 words, and we'll find 9 others, and we'll publish 10 short stories. I'll do whatever it takes to get more books out there.
And so if you look at, your website is www.simplewords with an S, books with an S.com.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So all the information is that there's sort of other material, not just the books. There's sort of work. What do you call them?
Workbooks.
Workbooks. Sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Workbooks. And they can contact you there. I just think it's extraordinary. What you're doing. It's so interesting.
Thank you so
and you're
much.
like a one-off. You're like an enigma for this world. I'm sure. Did that Wilson lady? Did she love you to bits? Are you still in touch with her?
I think I always will be, because what the program she put together has certainly changed my son's life.
Right.
And I'm forever grateful for everyone that supported me. And similar to a lot of self-publishers, a lot of other people helped me through the process. So I'm here to help others who are starting.
Thank you. Amazing. So thank you, Cigdem, for a fascinating insight into the world of dyslexia. You can enjoy her first book in the series, The Gold of Black Rock Hill, and you can find out, as I said, about Cigdem's work and her books at www.simplewordsbooks.com. Thank you so much for watching Author Hour with Richard Lyntton, a show for writers on writing, whether that's decodable or otherwise. I'm your host, Richard Lyntton, author of North Korea Deception, an international spy thriller set in London, Moscow, Vladivostok, and Pyongyang. If you have any ideas for the show, you can email directly at richard@richardlynttonbooks.com or find the form at my website, richardlynttonbooks.com. See you next time.